The year was 399 BC, and the sun beat down on the marble heart of Athens. It was a day like any other, yet the air in the marketplace carried a strange electric tension. In a city that prided itself on being the cradle of democracy, a peculiar ritual was taking place, a random lottery. This wasn't a game of chance for wealth, but a summons to duty. 501 men, all over the age of 30 and without a single criminal mark on their records, were being chosen. These men were not judges or legal scholars. They were commoners, potters, soldiers, and farmers. In the Athenian system, justice wasn't left to a single-robed figure, but to the masses. When a case was brought forward, the accuser and the accused stood before their peers, and these 501 citizens would decide the fate of a man's life. The number 501 was a calculated choice. It was a crowd too large to bribe and too varied to intimidate. In a city of silver-tongued politicians, you could perhaps buy a dozen men, but 500? That would bankrupt even a king. And that final odd-numbered man was the insurance policy of the state, a guarantee that there would be no tie, no stalemate, only a definitive guilty or not guilty. On this particular morning, this massive assembly gathered for a case that would echo through the next 2 millennia, the trial of the philosopher Socrates. Socrates was a familiar sight in Athens. For 70 years he had walked these same dusty streets, barefoot and dressed in tattered robes. He didn't care for money, power, or the comforts of the elite. He was a man obsessed with a single haunting question: how should one live? He often described himself through a metaphor inherited from his mother. She had been a midwife, a woman who helped bring new life into the physical world. Socrates believed he shared her profession, though his labor was of the mind. He called himself a midwife of thoughts, a man who helped others give birth to their own ideas. But just as physical birth is accompanied by intense pain, Socrates' method of delivery was agonizing for the city. He didn't lecture. He asked questions. This was the Elenchus, the Socratic method. He would find a man who claimed to be happy or wise, someone who was comfortable in his certainty, and begin to pull at the threads of his logic. Imagine a man like Euthyphro, a man who considered himself a paragon of piety. One day Socrates encountered him near the court. Euthyphro was there to prosecute his own father for a crime, convinced that his actions were the height of religious devotion. Socrates, with feigned humility, asked him a simple question. "Tell me, Euthyphro, what is piety?" Euthyphro answered confidently, "Piety is doing what I am doing now, prosecuting the wrongdoer." Socrates shook his head. "That is merely an example. I asked for the definition." When Euthyphro tried again, saying piety is what the gods love, Socrates trapped him in a maze of logic. Do the gods love an action because it is pious, or is it pious because the gods love it? Euthyphro began to sweat. He realized that his deep-seated beliefs were built on sand. Frustrated and exposed, he eventually fled, leaving Socrates alone. This was the effect Socrates had on everyone. He stripped away the illusions of knowledge, leaving men standing naked in their own ignorance. He believed that the only true wisdom was in knowing that you know nothing. The trial began. The charges were grave. Socrates was accused of failing to acknowledge the gods of the city, introducing new, strange deities, and most dangerously corrupting the youth of Athens. Socrates stood before the 501. He didn't hire a sophist, those paid professional debaters who could make the wrong seem right for the right price. He spoke in his own voice. He looked at the jury and admitted he was an old man standing in a court for the first time at 70. He told them he lacked the flowery language of his accusers, but he possessed something they did not, the truth. He addressed the old rumors first. People called him a sophist, but he pointed out that he never charged a penny for his conversations. Then he shared a story that explained his lifelong mission. His friend Cherephan had once traveled to the oracle at Delphi and asked the priestess if anyone was wiser than Socrates. The oracle's answer was a simple no. Socrates was stunned. He knew he wasn't wise. To prove the oracle wrong, he began questioning the wise men of Athens, politicians, poets, and craftsmen. He found that they all thought they knew everything when in fact they knew very little. He realized then that the oracle was right. He was the wisest only because he was the only one who admitted his own ignorance. This realization didn't make him popular. It made him a gadfly, a persistent, stinging insect that bit the noble horse of Athens to keep it from falling into a lazy sleep. When the time came to vote, the result was surprisingly close. 280 voted for guilt, while 221 voted for innocence. Socrates was surprised. He had expected a landslide against him. Under the law, the accuser, Miletus, proposed the death penalty. It was now Socrates' turn to suggest a counter penalty. Usually, a defendant would suggest exile or a heavy fine to save their life. But Socrates refused to play the game. He told the jury that since he had spent his life helping the citizens of Athens for free, his punishment should be free meals for life at the city's expense, an honor reserved for Olympic champions. The jury was insulted. His irony felt like a slap in the face. In the second vote, even more men voted for death, 360 to 141. Socrates was sentenced to die by drinking hemlock. Even with the death sentence looming, he remained unshaken. He told the crowd that he was not afraid of death, for to fear death is to think we know what we do not. He was offered a chance to live if he promised to stop philosophizing. His answer became the motto of every seeker of truth, since the unexamined life is not worth living. In his final days in prison, his friend Crito arrived with a plan to smuggle him out. But Socrates refused to break the laws of the city. Even a law used unjustly against him would be to destroy the social contract he had lived by. He chose to die as a citizen of Athens, consistent to the end. As he drank the hemlock, he continued to discuss the immortality of the soul with his grieving students. He died as he lived, questioning, analyzing, and seeking. The tragedy of the story has a final twist. Socrates never wrote a single word. He believed that books were dead letters that couldn't answer back. Everything we know about him comes from a young student named Plato. Plato was so haunted by the execution of his master that he spent the rest of his life writing down these dialogues, perhaps painting Socrates as more perfect than he actually was. Socrates would tell us to beware of the fake feeling of understanding. He would tell us that the treasure isn't in the answer provided by a screen, but in the struggle to find it ourselves. He died to prove that thinking for yourself is the most dangerous and most beautiful thing a human can do. If you found the story of Socrates and his defiance of the status quo inspiring, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Who should we cover next? Whose story deserves to be told? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.